Ron.
Good morning. This is an emergency meeting of the Board of Selectmen of Tufton Borough. It's March 27th. Before we begin, can we honor America by pledging the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I begin, I'd like to start the meeting by reading the following. Emergency meetings may be called by the Chairman of the Board of Selectmen per RSA 91-A:2 without notice for situations where immediate and underlying action is deemed to be imperative. Attached is a copy of the memorandum issued by the Governor and the Attorney General dated 16 March 20. Its reference compliance with New Hampshire's Right to Know law, RSA 91-A, and in light of COVID-19 concerns and issuance of Executive Order 2010-4. I've provided a copy to be included in the minutes. One of the things that in the minutes we need to give a brief description of why we're having the emergency meeting. Does this statement and document meet that?
Yeah.
Okay. Who'd like to begin? I have no agenda, but I do have things in our folder.
The agenda was just the topic of the state.
So are we meeting on Monday? Or are we gonna, how are we gonna do it?
We don't have a scheduled meeting on Monday.
Okay.
That was a question that I had 4 questions to ask at some point during our meeting, and that was number 1.
Okay.
And I put down a brief meeting.
I'm happy to jump in here.
Go ahead. You have something you're working on, right?
So,
Go ahead, sir.
the governor last night issued an order that is a stay-at-home order for everybody in the state for non-essential activities. And then he included a whole long list of what are considered essential activities, which includes almost everything that the town government does. So I think as we address this today, that what we need to, my thought at least, is we need to figure out how in doing our work, we continue to do it in a way that's that keeps the risk of spread of the China virus down. Whether that be increasing the ability of town employees to do their work remotely, and how we address things like some of the functions that seem to me are difficult to do remotely, like dealing with welfare cases and that sort of thing. So I am aware that there is a capability available, and we've had some dialogue with our IT contractor on this that allows us to provide remote access to the town server to those individuals so that they can work with some of these applications directly from home. That addresses how you're interacting with the stuff that's on the computer. It doesn't address how we deal with some of the other stuff that's involved. So whether we can go from what we've been doing, which is working in a closed environment at the town office with the public access to individuals by scheduled appointment only. Whether we can shift more of what employees do from being in the office or in their normal work situation into working remotely. I mean, those are all questions and I think things that we need to consider. But as I say, going back to where I started, when I look through this long list of activities, most of the activities that town government performs are explicitly or implicitly included in essential activities.
Chip, anything you want to add?
No, I think hopefully everybody got a hold of the shelter in place advice from the governor. That's going to start.
Well, it's a stay at home.
Or stay at home.
Yeah, there's a huge difference between the shelter in place and
Right.
stay at home.
I guess we have to decide at some point in time how we're going to proceed. I know that Karen and the other folks at the office have been directed to work with Tom Albert to try to do remote or at work at home on the
Yes.
particular task.
Karen, do you want to brief what you found out from Tom?
Sure. So there's a service called Logman that they are now offering free to municipalities for the first 90 days. There are a limited amount that they're offering to people. But other than that, $129 a month for 10 users. I just asked Tom to obtain a quote for up to 10 users, thinking that would probably be a maximum amount. So the Logman service gains an employee remote access from home as if they're sitting at their desk. They can access every software, make changes, save, and anything they would normally do with their computer desktop. You can print documents to your home printer, alternatively, rather than the office printer. The only obstacle we could find was check printing for Diane, but she could set that printer up at her home. So does that explain that pretty well? Or?
And how hard is it to get installed?
Tom, oh, thank you for adding that. So I spoke to Tom. He said that the company would send me, he believes, a link with instructions, and you need to set up it or work with each individual to set them up on their home, on their work PC, and then they would also have instructions for their home PC. But it didn't sound like it would be too much. But I haven't received those instructions yet, but he didn't think it would be too cumbersome.
What I'd like to do is open up to the people who do the work. I see a hand up. Go ahead, Chief.
I'm familiar with Logman. It's essentially how Tom does our remote login
That's right.
anyways when he works on us. It's a service you can, and I used it for a little while. It's pretty simple to set up. It's just basically once you have the client on each end.
Does it require somebody to come in to do it?
No, you can do it. It's just like, it'll be a thing that says install on your computer. The only thing it could come up if you need administrator rights to do it at your workstation. Like on our side, you need administrator rights to do anything. But
Yeah, we don't need it in our end. We don't. Oh, you need to download it, excuse me.
to install software, make changes to your computer,
yes, and that's
you need to
something
be in an account that has administrator rights that can make changes to a computer.
Oh, and you're right, and I have those rights.
So you would have to go to the computers that would do it. But other than that, I mean, it doesn't serve any purpose for my department, but could for some others.
Anybody else?
Any
Yeah,
thoughts?
because we're not hooked into anything that the town does.
But you can access your office computer, your office server from home.
Well, I understand that 100%.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a difference because we're
You're
essential.
gonna be there.
We gotta be there
Admittedly, I
anyway.
didn't include, yeah,
The other thing is that my wife has been working from home for the last week. What she ran into is, you know, like the PC shutting down at the office, someone's got to go in to restart it and things like that. You know, different programs out there. She log into the state for something and it would shut her computer down at the office. So someone would have to go in and take care of restarting that and things like that. So.
I did have my computer when I came in the other day was shut off too. I don't know if we had a power glitch perhaps.
We did.
But,
Yeah.
but other than that, I don't know why that would be like that.
So two other thoughts that I have relative to the remote access. One is it requires a computer at the other end. And it also requires internet access, right? I don't know that everybody has that. Or, you know, number one, internet access, and number two, suitable computer. And you can check with Tom if you would, that my guess is that we can get some Chromebooks, which are basically just a dumb terminal to use to do this remotely.
I know I do personally.
Right, but all I'm saying is, I think for relatively short money, we can get Chromebooks that will allow the user to just basically do this from their
A lot of
house.
times Chromebooks won't do a lot of things because it's Google-based. So.
Okay. And we
This-
should-
I have a
But this,
Chromebook at home.
but this is web-based, you're basically
Right,
saying.
right,
Right.
but I think it
I have
will,
no issue going to work as long as my office doesn't become a community office, because that's how it is.
Well,
as long as it's not gonna become what?
A community office, because you have conservation, everybody comes through my door. If it's just me and everybody else is gonna be, I have no issue going in.
Right.
You know, because it'd be, from my applications with building permits and inspections and all that, it's much easier to do it from the office than it is remotely. So,
Well,
I
there-
get emails on my phone and what have you and all that.
Right, there are a number of things we do that require physically passing a piece of paper.
Right.
I know you mentioned, for instance, printing checks. You gotta print them at the town. I mean, it does no good to print them at a remote location, because we gotta sign it, right?
They gotta come down.
So, we gotta come down and
Perhaps, yeah, I don't know what Diane, I mean, Diane would speak better to that. Maybe she could organize them and stuff and get them ready for you for signature at home. I don't know, but that would be her.
Do you have any thoughts, Diane?
Well, you know, I could I could key in and enter the payroll from home. I could do that remotely. But then not doing it remotely, I was thinking of coming in on Thursdays, putting in a full day, doing the payroll and the AP, finish at 2 o'clock, and then maybe Selectmen could come in and sign them. And then I would talk to the treasurer and see if he would mind not having, see if he would want to come in about that time, or stagger it so you don't all come in at the same time. Or forego signing the checks for just this period of time till we get through this virus period. And I would give him, you know, the reports, you know, what was paid out with the, you know, check registers and things like that. He could sign off on that maybe, but I would talk to him about that first. And then after the selectmen signed the check, I could distribute the checks at that same day, put them in the mail and distribute the payroll stubs where, like I normally do for the department heads. And then I would be done. I could do that in one day instead of dragging it out, coming in on Monday, that kind of thing. I mean, are we looking to reduce the amount of time we're working? I'm not sure. It depends where we're going. I could plan on that, or I could plan on another strategy, so it depends where we're going.
it's certainly not my thought that we would reduce people's hours.
I'm not interested in doing that.
It's, the whole thrust of this thing is to reduce potential exposure to the China virus.
It's a health issue.
And so we've taken measures by closing the office to the public so that we don't have folks congregating there. And
I myself don't feel, I don't feel any fear right now because we don't have contact with the outside. So I feel okay. You know, I get in my car, I go home. I feel the biggest threat is going into the supermarkets. That's where my biggest fear is. If I'm going to catch anything, it's going to be there. It probably won't be at work. Unless somebody goes to the grocery store and brings it in.
Or, well, I mean, how are you gonna address welfare cases?
Because we're a tourist community, we've got people coming in from New York, you know? And they don't know they have it, and there's probably, who knows, you know?
I think that Diane's job is probably going to get busier, if anything, as far as being on the welfare side of things.
Right.
Especially
That's
if
my,
we get into the shelter in place like Chip was talking about. So how do we handle that if it comes to that point? Because we, you know, as far as community-wise, we're not really set up for keeping people in place and bringing them food and things like that.
Right, and there's no real way to apply for welfare.
remotely.
Remotely, no.
You know, you got all those forms filled out, et cetera.
I mean, it would have to be something I could screen over the phone, an applicant, I would be doing over the phone. I couldn't expect them to come in and then be exposed and they'd be exposed to me. We'd have to probably relax our application process a little bit, you know, if there's an emergency.
So have we had any applications recently?
I have had one, I had a homeless man,
Okay.
and I'm working with this individual. And I haven't seen this person, and I'm interacting with the neighbor. This person doesn't have anything, no phone. The Life Ministries right now, they're closed until April 1st. What they're doing is they're doling out food enough to give them for 2 weeks, and then they're going to reopen again, and they're going to do a drive-through. They bring out the bags, and they're going to give them enough food for another 2 weeks, and they're going to close for 2 weeks. That's what it looks like is happening right now. So I couldn't send this individual to the food pantry. So luckily the neighbor's working with me, and I was able to give the neighbor a food voucher so that this neighbor can go shopping for this individual.
Right, and then we have to.
So there, you know, every applicant will have some different situations. So we'll just have to deal with it as it comes.
And we're still faced with the fact that we have a very limited bench, if you will. I mean, if all of a sudden Diane comes down to this, who's doing payroll, who's doing welfare, payables. So we need to probably look at that system a little harder. Because there are, I mean, if we're gonna triage this, it's what's the most important. It's payroll to keep our employees paid, and it's welfare to make sure our citizens are taken care of. If the payables get behind, the payables get behind. I mean, it's nice to keep the economy moving, but I don't think customers' payables are going to make that much difference.
The payroll piece is an important piece to keep
Right.
up with. I
Yes.
mean, that's,
Right. So Karen, are you feeling up to speed on the payroll?
I am cross-trained in payroll and accounts payable, so that's fine. And welfare, I've had a couple, 1 or 2, 3, maybe 3 cases ever,
Yeah.
but I usually work with the chairman on protocol. But certainly could use a little more information than that.
Yeah, I think, I mean, as Diane said, I think welfare is going to end up loosening up a little bit because we just don't have the ability to do in-person interviews and all of that sort of thing. We don't want a lot of back and forth, and it seems like nobody wants to bring in their most recent paycheck or power bill or whatever it is, and we're always chasing documents. So we're going to have to.
Chip, can you still continue to work on welfare?
spite of the fact that I'm a mean son of a gun.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you've done a good job, and let's not make too many changes, okay?
Well, it makes it easier if it's
Continuity.
consistency.
I'm trying to balance a couple of things. First of all is the safety of our people and health. The other thing is we need to keep the trains running, and I want to balance this, and our department heads are doing that by doing things remotely. Do we have to make a decision today, or could we meet briefly on Monday to think about this?
Today, please.
Go ahead.
One thing that you gotta consider is if you're gonna have meetings, we're at 10 now. There's no exemption for public meetings.
Right.
No public could come in at this point to the meeting, which would, that 91A exemption still requires that the public have access. So I think the thing you should be looking at, if you're going to continue meetings, and a lot of places just cancel them all, is you need to have some sort of technology solution to answer how you're gonna have public access to the meeting and that they can ask questions and live watch it. I mean, that's something you need to figure out. We're at 10.
Well, what's the protocol for broadcasting? I mean, when do you get this stuff on the air?
It has to be live.
Has to be live,
Oh, it has to be
It
live?
has to be live and they have to be able to ask questions. And they have to be able to.
If-
Whether it's a conference call,
if the
or
public
dial
is an
number.
Excuse me, one at a time. Are you done?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, it could be speakerphone type thing, whatever, it doesn't be video, but it just has to be live.
Public has to be able to participate and indicate whether or not they have a question in some way.
And we do have the public here today.
Well, I mean, we have public input as an item on our agenda,
Yes.
and it's limited to a certain amount of time.
But we're at 10. That's
Over
the
at
issue.
10 people.
I'm
Or
sorry.
we're at 10.
We're at
people right
10.
here.
Nobody could come in
No
right
one
now.
else can.
Oh, I see, we're maxed out.
Yeah.
Yes. So either a lot of places have canceled their meetings totally, or I believe Concord's using Zoom with some sort of a dial-in system for people to ask questions. I mean, but the problem with Zoom, because if you do something like that, you do not have to have physical location even. I mean, everybody could be at a separate place, as long as everybody's able to get in. But you have to have that sort of as part of your notice, and there is on the New Hampshire municipal site and how people can get in and all that. But a lot of places either cancel it or they come up with some method to have the meetings. Concord, Dover is doing live stream through their Dover Community TV. Wolfboro is doing live stream through Wolfboro Community TV. Problem we have here is if we have it here, like as a location for at least the video part of it, we have no internet here, and we have no ability to even do a wireless hotspot because the cellular is so spotty.
So my thought is that we maintain access at 10 if we have excess people that want to cycle in, cycle out, they can stand outside, somebody leaves, somebody else come in.
Can't do that.
Can't do that,
Then you're grouping people outside. And
then the public's being excluded from the meeting.
Joe?
Just a comment, because I am videotaping, I can set up a camera, just point it to the selectmen, then you'll sit out in my vehicle, and with less than one person. Well, I'm just trying to keep it simple,
Yeah.
okay, and then call me when you're done.
Yeah, and then we have to monitor the door, so that takes people out of your department, or somebody.
Well, you can't bar anybody from coming in. It's a public
Well, you
meeting.
can if there's already 10 people inside.
Then it becomes an illegal meeting. The Attorney General and the Governor have not waived the 10 for a public meeting.
Well, I'd certainly enjoy a day in court over this issue.
I was gonna say, yeah, they sue us and we'll.
Yeah,
Well, they already have.
We'll try and make the accommodation that we can.
yeah.
We don't live in a big city, We don't have the big infrastructure that Dover or Wolfboro or one of those has.
And inevitably, somebody's gonna challenge this. I mean, somebody's suing over the right to assemble.
That's what it is, the right to assemble, and they lost. It's already gone.
I certainly hope so, but they found an attorney to file suit, so I don't think.
No, the
there's
state
anything like
won.
that. The people who sued filed the suit, found an attorney who would sue for them.
Yeah.
So there are stupid people in the world. People are gonna sue us over one thing or another. It's just something you can't avoid.
Karen?
A suggestion could be a combination meeting, so perhaps you sit like you are now, and we have a conference phone set up for people. However, we'd have to look into it, but other people can participate by phone call. So that's how you kind of put the notice out that, you know, even if one of you wanted to dial in from home, you could. But we could do a combination if you wanted, to allow to be able to exceed the 10. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just don't know how you manage that. I mean, how do you manage the, let's say you have 20 people on the phone, all of whom want to ask the question.
Well, that's where something like Zoom or there are some conference call ones that allow you to mute the other people on the other end. They have to be able to listen, they have to indicate they have a question, if you will, if you want to recognize it. There's technology that will do it, and Zoom is, I think, free,
I
I'm
think
pretty
it is,
sure,
too. Yeah, I think we could probably do that, right?
from the town
We
hall.
could do a video, I mean, I could set up a webcam and use that computer in the selectmen's room, you know, and have you on, and I could set it up that way.
Zoom, I think, is free, and it's not rocket science to set up,
Right.
as far as I looked at it a little bit, and that's why some places are using it. A lot of places are using it.
I have a couple of thoughts on the issue. First of all, as chairman, it's up to me with your advice and consent. If we're overcrowded for any reason, we suspend the meeting or move it to another location. And that's happened in past years here, especially with some planning board meetings and
And
town
that's to
meetings.
avoid the problem.
The other thing is, are we really going to bump into it? It also gives us at least a couple of days to think about what the options are. I don't know if a decision has to be made today.
I don't feel the need to meet on Monday.
Okay.
No, but I think we need to be in contact, not as a meeting contact, but just some sort of fleshing out of what we're gonna do. So if we're gonna approach, either Zoom thing, or if we're gonna do a video conferencing thing at the town office.
Right.
I mean, we sort of need to make a decision before the next meeting about how we're gonna proceed. I don't think we have information about that.
I'm trying to be balanced. We don't have enough information now, but maybe we could maybe make a decision prior to April 11th
Right, and I mean, given the
or April
fact,
6th.
given the fact that there's this movement for non-essential business to not happen, I'm wondering how many meetings we're gonna need to have, or how long they need to be. Because we're not gonna be talking about, for instance, Jimmy Wharf, or the beach, or any number of other things that we don't really need department reports in person. They can submit them, and we can read them.
So let me make a suggestion. I'll be happy to work with Karen to figure out some way to provide real-time access to our meetings, with us meeting at the town office, in the selectmen's room. And to work toward getting something set up between now and our next meeting on the 6th, so that people can have access to that.
Okay. Is that
Yeah, it
right?
may not be, I mean, you may find it. doesn't have
It
to
may
be
be
on
telephone, maybe video, maybe, but we'll look at the range of things that are out there. And I'm not envisioning that we'll spend large amounts of money to get it done, but we'll probably have to spend a little bit of money and come up with an approach, and of course a way to let people know that this is how they can participate. Would that work for you?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, maybe bring Joe into the conversation somehow.
No, no.
No, keep it on.
Joe is a valuable resource because he knows a lot more about this than I do. So.
Maybe Joe will let us use his webcam.
I'll shift gears. The next is a letter from Andrew Shigori, our police chief, reference part-time employees. How much can we talk about in public, chief?
Well, I guess in general, what's your policy going to be? First off, April 1st is a change in the law that if anybody is ordered to self-isolate, quarantine, whatever the phrase is, the term du jour is, because either suspected exposure or suspected or confirmed coronavirus, under federal law, April 1st, they're supposed to get 2 weeks, and it can't affect their sick leave. That affects, well, it may not affect one of our employees. But for any of the employees going forward, though, so that kicks in April 1st, along with, and my other question on part-time employees, and this was something that was suggested through CDC and others. If you have employees, you may want to consider loosening up your requirements for sick notes from doctors and consider, your sick leave, because you don't want somebody to feel, I can take some cough syrup, mask it, and I'll come in because I can't afford to lose the pay, and so I have one part-time employee within my agency. Obviously I budget as if that person's going to be there every day. I just would feel better for the employee and for the other employees if this person doesn't feel well, they're not going to worry and try and come in tough it out when they probably should, again, social isolate for a few days.
Well, I think that FMLA edict that came through that I read, I didn't memorize it, but I thought that cleared a lot of that up.
It does for somebody that has benefits of sick leave, but and our part-time employees don't have benefits for sick leave.
That's right, they're not accruing.
They're not accruing any, so it doesn't. So that's the two parts I mean, like I said, it's in my budget already to pay it, and I'd rather, for a variety of reasons, just while this emergency is declared, to allow that, if you would.
I have no problem accepting the policy.
I think that we certainly don't want to disadvantage any of our employees as a result of this, so that it's reasonable to pay them as if they're working through this period. I do think that it makes sense for us to be able to track these hours, only because with the $2.whatever trillion free-for-all that's thrown out there, undoubtedly there's going to be some money available to come back into to offset some of these things.
Although it's 9,000 pages. So my understanding is that there's a specific amount of money that's going to go to towns and counties and states to mitigate whatever losses they have.
Right. Whatever it is, if we, as long as we are able to capture all of this stuff, so that we can revisit it, there may be an opportunity down the road to get some relief on it.
Well, should we make a motion, Chairman?
I would accept a motion. Go ahead.
I'm going to make a motion that we extend family medical leave to our part-time employees to be a 2-week leave in the event of they have to self-isolate or actually condemn the virus.
Which is separate from the sick pay for part-time employees.
I'm not sure they get sick pay, but do they?
Well, not under our.
Excuse me, there needs to be a second for purposes of discussion, so I'll second it
Okay.
for purposes of discussion. Thank you. Go
I
ahead,
mean, you
Sue.
can change it, Bill. I'm happy with that. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to cover it.
Yeah.
I have in front of me the, again, you made it available from Ed Garone, my former neighbor. An employee is subject to federal, state, or local quarantine or isolation related to COVID-19. The employee has been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine due to concerns related to that. And this is, the act requires employees to provide employees with 2 weeks of paid sick leave in the following circumstances. Do you need to add something to that?
Well, I think as far as part-time employees, I think it should be regularly scheduled, so it's not like, you don't want to give, if you have somebody that's like a on-call part-time employee, if you will, I don't think you need to also give them 2 weeks pay. Just careful of the wording, that's all it's getting at. I don't think you were intending that anyways.
No, I was sort of doing it, you know, kind of per surface. I mean, if you work on average 10 hours a week, you're gonna get 10 hours.
Right, and that's what that is about, but I just wanted to make sure that was clear. It's not just every part-time employee or on-call employees, if you will.
And they may take the unemployment benefit, which would probably exceed what they would use, as opposed to this.
I took your motion for regularly scheduled part-time employees, of which he has one.
Okay, and Clay has.
Yes.
So there is.
No, those are per diem.
Oh, okay.
They are not regularly scheduled.
They are.
No.
Okay.
There's only 3 employees that are regularly scheduled.
So we're only dealing with one employee?
Well, you have,
Don't we have a couple of regular scheduled secretaries that have regular
Oh,
we
hours?
have the assistant town clerk, we have the conservation
Yep.
secretary, we have
Planning.
Planning board.
yeah, but it's not, and fire department, yes.
7 hours.
So,
What about the fire department?
Yeah, how are we gonna deal with that?
Our people are called, so we only have one person, the secretary, as far as for 7 hours on a Monday.
So there's gonna be a situation where you have a house fire, you call out your firemen, 3 of them are quarantined, they don't get to participate in the fire, but, so they've lost a certain amount of income. Is that an issue?
You know, that's something we have to deal with as far as state-wise, as far as it goes. I think the problem that you have is that did they get quarantined because of something they did with the town? Or were they quarantined on their own because, you know, they got the virus, you know, somewhere else? We would be paying them if it was job related.
I'm not sure, I mean, that's kind of throwing it into a workman's comp situation. I don't think they're allowing us to do that.
No,
And
but
if you go to the mall and get the virus, that's not a work related.
that's what I'm saying. If they get the virus on their own, they can't
I don't know how
prove.
you can,
I don't know how you can prove where you got
yeah, I don't know how
it.
you can figure that out.
Well, if my, for example, if my people or Andy's people come in contact with someone that has the virus
Or symptomatic.
or symptomatic, we're documenting that.
We have to do a first report
We
of
have to
injury.
do the reports and stuff like that.
Okay.
Once they become quarantined, because of that, you know, as far as the time period that they have to stay there, we own.
Yeah,
Those
I
people.
have called Primex about that,
Yep.
and it is, they either have to be suspected or known, but it has to be work-related contact.
Right.
So that's workers' comp, that, we have to do a first report of injury if that were the case. But if it's unknown how they got it, I mean, they could have got it shopping, then that's, they're taking their sick leave, that's FMLA stuff. That's the difference.
They're on their own as far as,
So, but workers' comp does kick in for suspected
Okay, so
or,
these are two different
yes.
areas.
right.
And I'm just worried, I guess all we're talking about.
People that are
is-
regularly scheduled, that are part-time,
And for
that
whatever
miss
reason
work
they get it.
because of the coronavirus.
Right.
I mean, if we find out that Andy's part-timer got it from meeting somebody at the police office, we might put in a
Right.
claim to Primex. Who knows,
But otherwise, if my people, for some reason, they come down with the virus and they're home and they can't respond to the calls, then they're not responding to the calls. You're down that amount of people.
okay. So I made a motion.
Is your motion clear to you?
Yeah. Excuse me. How are we?
Maybe Karen can read it back, and do we need to make an amendment to it?
Sure, let's see here. The initial was to move to extend FMLA to part-time employees to include 2-week leave in the event they need to self-isolate or come down with the virus. And then there was discussion. This will include employees that are regularly scheduled part-time employees, such as planning board, conservation, assistant town clerk, fire department secretary, and police department secretary. Per diem employees would not be included. We'll let my notes after during your discussion.
So the generic motion is regularly scheduled part-time employees.
Well, I'll move to amend it
Okay.
to include payment of sick time for regularly scheduled part-time employees. Right, that's what we're talking about. Right.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the amendments, say aye.
Aye.
Now, we're back to the motion that involves the amendment. Are you clear on that?
Yeah.
So we're voting on the amended.
No, the amended, your motion that's been amended with the amendment.
Okay.
I'll move the question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Good job. Any other? Karen?
Sorry, I jumped the gun.
No, please go ahead.
Could you please let me know how to proceed with the remote access?
Do
And
we-
how to set that up for people?
Do we want to make, he's going to work on it with you?
That was for meetings, I understood. The remote access for employees.
I'll be happy to work with her on remote access to employees that want to do that, to the town network. That work?
So you're okay with employees working from home remotely if they can do so with one?
Yeah, I guess the only, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Go ahead.
Oh, no.
The only, I mean, if we're gonna go to remote access and we're gonna do financial transactions remotely, we need to set up some controls. So hopefully, while you're looking at the system that's gonna go in place, we can figure out some cash controls. I mean, I trust everybody that works for us,
Yes.
but we're now entering the realm of the
Cyber.
Yeah.
interweb. So hopefully Tom can set us up with security and we can keep the check system the same. And Treasury needs to get a little more involved in reconciliations on a regular basis.
I sent a letter request of 4 different things to the treasurer. Remember, one of you asked for him to be involved to review the auditor's report and making
Well, we already
deposits.
talked about setting up cash control.
And I perused the minutes, and there were 4 issues that you folks had talked about. And I just dropped the request off to him to research and get back to us. Question?
Sorry to keep adding, but I wanted to make you feel better. I did speak to Tom about security with people working from home. With this service, he didn't see any issues. He's not concerned.
Okay. And should we leave it up to Selectman Marcuson about Diane's proposal? One day, or how do you want to?
Yeah, let me work with Karen and Diane to make a system that works for everybody, that has the security that we need, any additional hardware we need, we'll get it set up.
Sure.
You know, we have some people that access it in the office that may have no interest in accessing it remotely, and that's fine.
And the time, so we know when, I mean, she was thinking about having us come in staggered, signing checks, that kind of thing. But what her-
I'm standing 6 feet away from you, and that's fine.
Yeah, I'm staying in my house.
Are you gonna have one of those remote pen things, right?
Yeah, just so we've got a system that everybody understands.
Sure.
Well, the system is flexible. One department head doesn't need it, it's kind of unique, another one can, so I have no problem offering them
Well,
tools.
you know, we still are the executives, so we really shouldn't be involved.
Go ahead, sir.
So remote payments, the only one that does remote payments is the tax collector and town clerk. Everything else is checks, or what have you, and that goes by mail.
Right.
And I get the mail. How is that going to get to the people working remotely? I'm just throwing it out there.
Yep.
Those are, right. So, and those are some of the things that we do on a regular basis that we don't want to let slip through the cracks.
Right.
Right? Mail comes in, you typically pick the mail up.
Yeah, I distribute it in each individual
Right.
box.
So anybody that's
So it doesn't
working
get
remotely,
organized.
how do they get mail that needs to come to them? We need to figure out, and rather than sit here as a group and say, this is the guideline, I would propose that individuals figure out the way to access it, understanding that it's not acceptable for the mail to just sit on the desk for long periods of time. But yeah, there are a number of things with thinking that we're going to do everything remotely that are problematic. Not the least of which is, you know, not singling Diane out, but the work you do with payables and payroll and all that involves interfacing with a lot of paperwork that comes in order to get the right approvals on invoices. Once you have that done, can you take a stack of invoices and sit someplace far away and enter them in the system, assuming you have access? You probably can, but you still got to get all that stuff. And then at the other end, we have to get checks printed, signed, mailed, and we have, I think we only have one that I can recall, only one payment that we make over the internet, right, which is the IRS,
Yes,
Right, everything else is by check.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you do have a number of accounts that you hit a button and you don't produce a check for them, it gets deposited electronically, right?
That's payroll.
Payroll.
But in terms of payables, the
Yeah.
only payable, I think, is the IRS, right, that we do.
The IRS VALIC,
Hmm?
I make a payment remotely with VALIC and it
Right.
deducted from my checking account.
Well, if 10 people, for example, worked with you and had their payroll checks deposited directly, that's 10 less checks you have to generate, right?
I only have like 2 people that actually get a check.
Right.
On a regular basis,
Okay.
yeah. Except that
And
once
the
in
other
a
part
while,
is the income part.
Right.
You know, we need to
How do we
get them in, get
Yeah.
deposit slips, and then record it into the budget on the
Right.
appropriate line. So there may be some forms that need to get made so that if Diane's working from home, she's got a record of how these transactions are flowing. And then we still have ongoing town stuff, I mean, contracts that were signed, et cetera. I'm thinking of Santa.
Sure.
There's still got to be an ability for those people to contact Karen, for instance, and
Right.
ask and answer questions.
That's it in this folder here. Do any of the selectmen have any other issues related to why we called this meeting to bring up this time? First of all, the board.
No.
I'll open it up to the public. I'll start with Karen and go right around. Any other issues related to this meeting that need to be discussed from your perspective?
No, but I can think of, I just need to know from some of the department heads, like Andy and Adam, if they would like their secretaries to work from home, but we can talk about that after. Thank you.
Okay. Next.
All set?
Only other
Thank you
question I
for
had
that.
is, people call in to 569-4539. Are you able to remotely access from your house?
Yes, I actually have instructions I can send to you.
That's the only thing I thought of too, is
Okay.
making sure people can access their extensions remotely, that's all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any comments or questions? Or?
It's just the conservation, the trustees, all that, are they still essential coming in and all that? Because that what travels through my office, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, we haven't heard, and maybe we need to send an email out.
Use this facility?
All the committees,
Yeah, your Parks and Rec, your conservation.
yeah, and whether or not
Cemetery, trust,
they're gonna continue to meet.
If they continue to meet, have them do like we do? So they
It'd
space
be
themselves
safer,
here.
and I think I'd like to think that Jack is gonna keep the door from his office, or maybe the selectmen's meeting room. Somehow isolate the other part of the office from his activity, because he's gonna have a lot more activity than.
Well, I don't have people come in, I go and they do it by mail, but I do have, occasional person where.
It seems like every time he's wandering into a vendor about something.
But it's the fact that the people that come in the office when I'm not there, I don't know who's there. I don't know who's coming in when I'm there.
Yeah, if someone has a meeting and they walk through your office to
Sit at my desk, read my phone, I don't know.
yes.
Then let's move all the meetings, let's just have Karen send out a memo.
That's what I was.
Let's move all meetings to here,
Yep.
till further notice.
And you're gonna get some keys out, that's all. So that's,
I'll-
keys are in the lockbox and someone has to give them to them, so.
Yeah. And the fire department's closed?
We're not having meetings.
No, I mean,
We're locked down to, the
Just-
general public can come into the lobby. We deal with them through the window, pass whatever paperwork that we have to, and operate from there.
And it's working, right?
We're limiting our response calls, tiering the response, as far as certain amount of people in the house at a period of time, the more that are needed, we take the appropriate precautions as far as PPE, put it on and go from there. We have stuff on order. We have hand sanitizer. We have a gallon of hand sanitizer that's coming from Flag Hill. We'll be going to pick that up in around April 2nd to start with as far as that goes. And we have other stuff on order as far as masks and things like that. But right now we're okay. Just trying to monitor other department heads as far as what they have, what they may need. Are we still going to be? We're going to. The transfer station is going to go into its limited exposure, correct?
we already have.
Already have.
Right, yeah, so the transfer station only accepts household waste now, no recyclables, and no C&D. And it all goes right in the compactor.
And glass can still be put out back.
Yeah. Still separate.
Go back to you, sir.
So, you mentioned these other boards. So I haven't been in all the legal calls that have gone in, the conference calls with the AG's office and stuff. I know Rick was on the one, I think it was yesterday's call. Going back to these boards and meetings, from the one I sat in, or listened in on, statutory deadlines are not waived. So zoning board, if they have a deadline they have to meet, they still have to have a meeting. And that's why Wolfboro had put in a notice how to do it. My point is, just like how you have to use technology for your meetings, they're gonna, especially zoning board, where there may be some hot topic, they can't have more than 10. And the problem with excluding people, if it's an illegal meeting, then if somebody contests it, then you won't have a legal decision if it goes, could mire things down. What Wolfboro did was they put in a notice how to do it. That's all I'm suggesting, is whatever technology we come up with, they'd all have to kind of or cancel their meetings. I mean, I don't know why the Parks and Rec would have to meet for the next month. You know, some of these, that's what a lot of places
And
not
I do
clear.
recall that planning board's monthly meeting requirement has been suspended, so planning boards don't have to meet during this emergency.
I know Wolfboro's holding their ZBA meetings, and I saw in the paper how they would put in their notice how to dial in or submit your questions by email.
Yeah,
Still,
yeah.
so we should figure out.
So
how to get
he's been looking at,
It would probably be the board that would show up in the applicant, anybody else would have to be on speaker, I would think.
And you also, if board members are not present, you have to have a roll call and everything, is what it says in the
Right.
orders.
yeah. Yeah, the only difference in terms of remote participation that I see with respect to 91A is that in general, in normal times, remote participation is allowed as long as you have a quorum in person, and that quorum requirement has been relaxed. But everything else with respect to 91A access is the same.
Except the second order said you don't need a physical location anymore either.
Right.
So do we still
Right.
have a 48-hour notice on meetings or whatever the notice requirement?
Still have to meet your notice
Except
requirements.
emergency
Nothing,
meetings.
except emergency meetings.
So we
They-
can call anything an emergency meeting if we have to. So for instance, let's say an issue arises that the three of us have to address. We don't have to wait 2 days to meet. We can actually just,
No, none of that
Right,
changed.
as long as there's urgency to it.
That has to be documented.
because I don't think we can solve all of the issues that may arise sitting here this morning. I think it's going to inevitably be that we're going to meet a few more times before this gets smoothed out.
Yeah.
Anything else on this topic? Chief, you had a conversation with me. Do you need to meet with the board, non-public?
No, it's where we are.
And that correspondence is in the folder. This has to do with the virus. I spoke to Clay Gallagher and Karen, the company that you got the name of. He'd be willing to work with them and do his areas, seeing how there's been some sick people up there. And it also would test out the company to see how they do.
The one with the 90 days?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'll provide him the information.
I'd like, you know, one of the things.
So is he gonna call them?
Yes, he will work on that. And he has money in his budget to do it, unless it's outrageous. I'm concerned, one of the strategies I'm concerned with is we need to make sure this building is clean and our building is clean.
It's only good until the next person comes in.
Right.
Then it's,
Yeah, I think if we just supply any wipes and hand sanitizer, soap, that sort of thing, and we can only do the best we can, but we can hopefully set up a protocol if people are going to have a meeting here tonight. Clean it up.
I saw your hands.
The CDC recommends the sanitizers, to wipes to keep your workplace clean in places people touch. And unless somebody comes, lab confirmed, and have been there extensively, then you don't need to do the overall cleaning. That's what they recommend.
Today, yeah.
And what, I was just reading this morning, lessons learned from Kirkland, Washington, how they dealt with their ambulances. They made sure they sealed off the front, they took any unnecessary equipment out, and they had like an aerosol dispenser that they could put in. And it changed the cleaning from 40 minutes to decon to 5 minutes to decon on their ambulances. So, but there's things you can do to make it easier to keep it clean, but as far as hiring somebody to come in, I don't know that, unless you have a confirmed case that's done something.
Well, I think what Lloyd was referring to was an area that's needed cleaning, and we need to get it done. So I'll be interested to see if they are booked, because there are a lot of places.
uncompromising here, let's test the company and see how they do.
Yeah, I mean, you may not get them because
Exactly.
there's so much work out there.
I saw him.
Yes, we have a office cleaner that comes in weekly, and we are having her wipe down with the disinfectant all the, handles and the things that get touched a lot. The bathrooms and the chairs, the armchairs and things like that. And we probably should continue to do that, I would think. We're talking about letting people in, and that's one of the individuals that we're continuing to let in.
Yeah, I think, how has that gone? That we're only letting them into the lobby. Are there people that are coming into the office?
We try not to let people in. We try to do it on the other side of the door. Sometimes we talk to them on the other side of the door.
Heather.
Let's say that if UPS comes
people
in.
have to sign things. So title application and stuff like that, she has to get signed, so it all
But
can't be done.
They go in the lobby. The clerk
Right.
goes into the lobby.
Right.
They don't let them in. They go in the lobby.
So the only ones that have access are basically employees, town officials.
And then the UPS guy, I think what we did, I saw or observed, I think somebody took the wheel of the
I did.
cart.
I took the cart and wheeled it in.
Yeah, for the UPS guy, instead of letting him, so.
Or they leave it in the lobby there. So I think that's not, it wasn't unexpected, so I'm sure he's seeing it other places. It was actually the Staples guy, not, what, there's the courier service,
I
but same thing.
think they relaxed their signature, so.
Yeah, they're not requiring
Yeah, I
anything.
noticed that, I didn't have to sign off.
So, just to jump a little bit, our patrolling is going on as usual?
Pretty much.
Okay, because I've noticed a sort of a uptick in crazy driving, but most of it's on the Chickville Road. And I don't know if people think that you guys aren't working because of this pandemic,
Well,
but they're out there being crazy, so.
You're on school.
Yeah, they're in school too.
Any other issues for the purpose of this meeting?
Do we have a visitor, anything? Just making sure we're being honest.
Before I ask for adjournment, any public information?
I'm trying to see if he's essential.
Yeah. In my mind, I am.
Yeah. We will have a lottery, who's essential?
Landscape.
I've been asked to deal with signature files so we don't inconvenience people. Okay with the board?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a notice of intent to excavate, tax map 32-2-12.
And then excavation permit.
Yes.
Is the number on there, or just your
Um,
private number?
Yeah.
That's up top, right?
They all have a number.
It should be 2000.
2000-455-02-E.
It's a little further down, it's for RSA 155, something.
Yep.
It's kind of a little bit down on the left-hand side.
218.
Number 5.
Find it, Bill?
AOT dash 1726, that's not it?
There's one above that, too.
Huh? Yeah, 20193EX.
That's it.
Second.
All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Today's the 27th.
So that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
To all our employees and department heads, thank you. You guys make a difference.
Your key.
I bought a key. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we should figure out the key for this place. We're gonna make a little bit of need here.
Item number 2, notice of intent to excavate, and the number is 20196EX, and this is for tax map 3-1-24.
I'll move approval.
Second.
All those any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, notice of intent to excavate, tax map 32-2-4. I believe the permit number is AOT1726.
About that.
Okay, 20194EX.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye,
The
passes.
Mount Shadows excavation, there was some issue about gravel tax, I thought was on. I'll check.
Okay.
In regards to that one, I think you're speaking of, he submitted his report and, there was only, I believe, only personal use, so there was no,
Right.
Okay, so that, all that's handled?
I'll triple check, that's what I remember though.
Okay, thanks.
Next is notice of intent to excavate, tax map 32-2-6, and it's 20192EX. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
The last is a gravel tax levy from our tax collector in the amount of $99.36 for map and lot 32-2-6.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. That's it for the signature file. Any other business to come before the board?
I noticed that Karen had put in a letter about continuing education. Looked like it was gonna cost $960. Can we move forward with that? It's an online education, or should we get a syllabus on it? And make sure we're happy with it.
I'm comfortable moving forward.
I'm comfortable moving forward.
All right, then, should we move forward?
Go ahead, sir. Your motion is?
That we approve the continuing education request from Karen Cook.
Is there a
I'll
dollar
second.
amount?
I think it was $960 plus books, so.
Is that appropriate, Karen?
It's $960 per class. You could certainly do however you want to handle it. I think the proposal said up to 6 classes a year. Do you want to do it one at a time? Do you want to? It's towards a degree, as you know, so I don't know how you want to handle it.
I think this is appropriate at this point. We need to review the personnel policy overall
Sure.
Sounds good.
going forward, but I don't want to delay her getting
Do you
started.
want to second his motion?
I
We
thought I
did.
I did.
You did, okay.
We're discussing
Yep.
at this point.
Any further discussion?
So we'll just get a report back from Karen on what her proposed schedule of events is.
Yes.
Okay.
Ready to vote?
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Any other business to come before the board? I will ask only because it's on my list. No meeting Monday?
Right, I mean, meetings is, I think it's gonna be on an ad hoc basis or a as needed basis. I think Bill is gonna probably generate a meeting before either of us do, because something's gonna come up.
So once we figure out some of these technology pieces and then move forward, that's probably appropriate then to have a quick meeting to.
And I have no problem if you want a couple to sign the checks on Friday. I'll move it along as fast as you want, so.
Yep.
We could do it whenever, I mean,
Yep.
we're all home now, we're not going to Chicago. But
No,
it's good.
no, not anytime soon.
Yeah, we're gonna need to know what the organization is. I mean, if Bill organizes, then God forbid something happens to Bill, we have to be up to speed on
Yes.
Right.
what the program is.
The other thing is, with you doing welfare, can we just keep all our assignments the same for continuity purposes, all the
Yeah.
things we do on our committees and
Yeah, I
commissions?
don't know how many
Meetings there'll be.
budget meetings we're gonna have for a while. but-
If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Nice job, guys.
Thank you.